I'm Ben Lands with APC Media.
I'm Seth Johnson. We're at DTECH 2026. Please join us as we speak to industry leaders,
Gaining insights from experts in the utility industry. Join us to hear all about what people are doing to achieve affordable, reliable, and a resilient grid.
We're here at DTECH 2026, and I'm with Amanda Freick of Creative Intelligence Group. I'm sorry. I know you've had so many different roles in the past. She is the founder of Creative Intelligence Group, so I'm very curious to hear about that. But before we get to that, tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to the power industry, as well as your new company, Creative Intelligence Group.
Yeah, thanks so much. So I came into the power industry because I am a third-generation engineer. First electrical, but I wanted to be Q from 007 and design like bugs for the government. And I had an amazing professor at Cal Poly named Dr. Tofik. And he saw right away that I would have gotten fired in a cubicle. And he said, you should work for a utility. And so I did. First one was San Diego Gas and Electric, and I honestly never looked back. I mean, I got a hard hat and a pair of boots, and I said, this is the world for me.
Awesome. So did you spend a lot of time out in the field?
I did. Yeah, most of my first roles were all out in the field on distribution and substation. And I love that I could see what we were working on. We were part of the community. I felt like we were making a difference while also getting to be my nerdy self.
So did you start as a power engineer in the...
I did, yeah. So my degree is in electrical engineering. I was lucky enough to go to a school that had a power systems focus.
Super.
Yeah. And so then I was in the associate engineering program at San Diego Gas and Electric. Shout out to them. They do a great job. And so I got to do 3 6-month stints around the organization. And so I did like distribution operations. Where else did I go? Smart metering and the TST, which was like the real-time operations center.
So they just put you wherever they could keep you out of a cubicle.
Correct. Pretty much. Yeah. They're like, where do we put this crazy girl?
That's awesome. So obviously all of that has got you to where you're at now with starting this company, Creative Intelligence Group. Tell me about Creative Intelligence Group.
Yeah, so we are a firm that focuses on commercialization for firms that serve the energy industry. And honestly, I kind of face planted into it. I was an engineer, got pulled into sales, which I thought I would never, ever do. But I had a friend / mentor come to me one day when I was still at the utility, and he said, I think you should come do sales. I said, I'm not a salesman. He goes, I just watched you sell a multi-million-dollar project, but there was just no PO because you were selling internally. And so he was very wise. And so I took that first sales role and then kind of fast forward through lots of companies and different things in life. And we've realized that the utility industry is in desperate need of innovation, which is a little bit cliche right now, but like the lights will be off for our children. You know, things are crazy right now. And so the utility industry is also very hard to sell to, and it needs to be.
Yeah.
Right? It's the most complex and largest machine in the world. Sure. It's a matter of national security, all the things that I soapbox all the time. And so what we want to do, and the reason we exist, is to help these really technically excellent firms to get a seat at the table, right? And help them commercialize, because a lot of times they don't know how.
Sure.
Right? So, I mean, I will lovingly say this because I am an engineer. They don't always know how to sell themselves.
So very deep technical experience, obviously, utility, metering group, power distribution, et cetera. You know, you've developed this ability to communicate that message, and with what you've developed with Creative Intelligence Group, you're really helping companies, you know, kind of go to market and scale. Tell me a little bit about your customer base. Is it all utility, or do you focus on other areas as well?
It's a great question. So we primarily focus on the utility industry just because that is my love. So we work with everything from technology companies like sensors, EV charging platforms, to line construction firms and that kind of stuff, field services. So it's really a wide breadth across the utility industry. And then we do some fun stuff outside too, but it's always selling into a complex sales cycle. Because I think that's the one thing that the utility industry really teaches you, is that there's a lot of silos and you need to learn how to break those down. And so although we love the energy industry, we do venture out every once in a while.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. You brought it up earlier, just, you know, innovation in the utility space and kind of, you know, the lack thereof at times. How do you get that message out with your customers that you're focused on really trying to help build their marketing?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So I think the hardest thing for a lot of firms who sell into utilities is what we see all the time is they have a friend who works at a utility they might have a really good title, right? And they get them the pilot, right? And maybe that turns into something that has enough revenue behind it that triggers an investment, and now they have to repeat that.
Sure.
And they don't realize that that first relationship-focused sale is not necessarily repeatable because Bob, who you sold to, doesn't work at every utility.
Right.
So what we come in and do is we tell them, listen, you are technically sound. Like, you have a great product, but how you sold to Bob, there's 14 other Bobs in different departments, and it's not the same messaging to every single one. Right? So for us with innovation, it's not just about what's the problem you solve, but how are you solving it for all of those different stakeholders?
Yeah.
And understanding that you're still selling the same thing, but how, let's just take like a sensor, right? How I position that to a distribution planning team is different than how I position it to purchasing is different than how I purchase it to the C-suite.
Sure.
Right? But it's all the same $50,000 pilot or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So it's understanding the complex nature of it. And honestly, like, kind of removing the innovation part, because that's a little scary for the utilities sometimes if you're talking to the wrong people.
Absolutely. Those are very good points. So, as you think about kind of where you're at now, what you're seeing from, your customer base, there's a lot of talk around AI, data centers, and, electrification, mobility, just massive load growth, what's going to happen to the utility grid, et cetera, et cetera. What are you seeing? What are some industry? That's what you're seeing.
It's so good. I wish I had my mug. My favorite saying right now is that politics do not equal physics. So you can mandate all of the data centers you want, you can regulate all the electrification you want, but the grid will still operate as the grid does, right? So I think the first thing is that we really need to have technically grounded conversations in order to move things forward and kind of remove some of that politics from the conversation, but also enable our technically minded people to have influence on the business side of the business.
Sure.
Right? So I think that is really important, and we're starting to see more of that. People are starting to realize that these two worlds are very separate, and we have to find the bridge. I think on the AI front, we had a little joke of how many booths could you find downstairs that doesn't say AI, right? It's coming. It's here. I shouldn't say it's coming. It is very much here.
Absolutely.
We use it in our firm a ton.
Yeah.
I think the thing that's really important about it is that a lot of what you see is a lot of AI slop, right? It's people prompting, what do I want for dinner? Write me a vlog, but give it no context. So I think the human in the loop is still going to be very important. And I think there's some really clever ways people are looking at business processes, how we access data. I think we're going to move away from so many point solutions to more decentralized but centralized solutions, right? Further out on the system. So it's been a good show. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on down there.
Yeah. Obviously AI, huge discussion. But when I think about it, it's only as good as you train it.
Correct.
Right. And so I always like to use the term, data indigestion, right? It doesn't mean anything unless you can make something of it, right? That's one thing that, certainly being someone like myself who focuses in power quality, focuses on those aspects of, power distribution grids, et cetera. Going forward, looking, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, how do you think utilities are going to adapt to some of the changes that we're seeing? And even if you can kind of bring it back to maybe some of the customers that you serve that are really trying to put out their plans for 5 years, what are you seeing?
Man, that's such a good question. I think trust is going to be a word that becomes even more important than it is today. We're moving so much faster. We're changing so much faster. You really have to have trust in your partners because we're entering into more places where the utility, they truly just don't have the knowledge in-house. And that's not their fault.
Yeah.
Right? We've been doing the same thing for 100 years, and now we're flipping that on its head. So I think the trusted partner model will be more than something that's written on an RFP. It will be a necessity. I think data has always been important, but I think to your point, like data indigestion, right? That the cleanliness of the data, the accuracy of the data, having the right data at the right time for the right person has become even more important. And I think that's one thing that's really interesting is that you see all these software companies downstairs, right? And some of them are doing incredible things.
Absolutely.
But then I look at it and I go, okay, but like the utility that you're talking to right now, they don't have any of that data.
Yeah.
Right? So how is that even going to work? So I think we're going to see a shift almost off of the technology because you can only really get true data in two places, right? It's a sensor or it's boots on the ground looking at something, right? Or maybe LiDAR or whatever. But I think we're going to have to invest in that non-sexy moment of getting all of that really accurate data in order to do the really cool stuff that is being shown at all this right now.
Absolutely. you need to train the system.
That's
at
right.
the end of the day, right?
Right.
And a lot of those folks are, maybe legacy old engineers that are working at these utilities that, they don't need to see the data because they know what's going on, right?
That's right.
But that doesn't mean that the data knows what's going on.
That's right. We had this conversation this morning, actually. So one of my mentors is a man named Frank Johnson. He was the godfather of substations at SDG&E. And so we were talking about an AI platform, and they said, well, we need to replace Frank. And I go, we're not replacing Frank. We're filling Frank's shoes.
Yeah.
Right? Because he was that guy where if something happened at a substation, I picked up the phone and I called Frank. Well, I can't pick up the phone and call Frank because he has retired. I mean, I can, but, and it's, how do I have it? I can't, but I can, right? And not everybody has a Frank.
Yeah.
Right? So it's how do we give them a system that is intelligent enough to put together these disparate pieces of data like a human would to give them that like tribal knowledge output, which is really hard, but I think we're far closer than the industry thinks we are.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think, it's interesting to hear your background, right? You don't see a lot of people that, get a power systems engineering degree and then go start at sales and marketing.
Yeah,
company.
right.
And, obviously you're very good at people and all that, which is great. But, I'm excited to kind of see how the things develop over the next 5 years, not only for Creative Intelligence Group, but just for the industry. Is there anything that, you think that you've gotten out of DTECH this year that's unique compared to previous years? Because obviously you've been here,
I don't even know how many years. Yeah, many years. Yeah, almost 20 probably. That's a good question. I feel like there's less shopping, right? I feel like there was a lot of looky-looing before.
Okay.
And you're seeing much more pointed efforts of, I know what my challenge is. I have things I want to solve. I'm booking those conversations ahead of time. So I think we're seeing more of that. The other thing that I'm loving is all of the collaboration between vendors.
Yeah.
Right. And I think we'll always have, that kind of competition and whatever, but nobody's going to solve all the problems, right? It's just not going to happen, no matter how big you are, how bad you want that money. And so those,
or the Nobel Prize.
Or the Nobel Prize,
whatever.
But I think, one thing that we really focus on as CI Group is that we love developing partnerships for our clients.
Yeah.
So because we truly believe, if solution 1 is worth 1 point, solution 2 is worth 1 point, together they're worth 7.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think, I've been helping facilitate and we've been witnessing a lot more of that collaboration, even without a utility involved, which I think is just so important for the industry. And I really hope that continues.
Yeah. No, I look forward to it too. It's been a good show this year.
Yeah.
And, I'd really appreciate you meeting with us. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
We'll keep it done, okay?